Mic check 1 2 1 2. All right, here we are back for another Make Your Move Monday. Make Your Move Monday. We're back. Let me just check all the platforms, make sure we are all good and ready to go. I'll try to make this quick, seeing that I've heard from some of you guys saying, "Look, get through this part." Facebook, we're good. You see what we're talking about today? We getting into this. We getting into this debate. We're getting into this encounter a little bit more. Is we get into it. All right. So Facebook, we're good. LinkedIn. Let me make sure we're all good on LinkedIn. Hold on. Ooh. There we go. Testing. We're getting into this encounter. All right, and YouTube, we're good. All right. And YouTube, we're all good. All right. Good morning, or whatever time this may be when you are tuning into this. For anybody that's new to my world, my name, As One Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time published author and educator. And what I do, what I created, what my business is all about, what the whole Move Swiftly mindset is all about, is taking the lessons that you learn on the football field, the teamwork lessons, the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field, and applying them to businesses so they have an efficient staff. They have a group of employees that is moving, a eager group of employees, a very motivated group of employees that's moving as efficiently and as cohesively as a championship high school or youth level football team. That's what we do over here in a nutshell in the Move Swiftly world. Today, as you can see, we are talking about a topic that was broached because the GOAT, in my opinion, the greatest basketball player to ever play the game. However, seeing all the flopping that went on this weekend, you know, every time I have the Jordan and LeBron debate, all right, the folk again, I'm gonna stick with my guy. I'm gonna say Bron, you know, say Bron is the guy. But whenever you get like the Jordan side coming at me, they're always bringing up the flopping and how much he has flopped. I mean, I'm going to run through all of LeBron's statistics and what he's done and just his ability in general. That's the reason I put him as the GOAT. And the Jordan fans just stay quiet, and then they pull up all the flopping clips. I gotta kind of humble myself. I gotta humble myself whenever they start showing me all the flopping. And unfortunately, that has been the stain in terms of where Jordan has him. I'll admit this: where Jordan has LeBron is all the damn flopping. And I guess now I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure if the flopping has been around before LeBron. I can't really confirm that. I'm not old enough to confirm that. I do believe there was something in which I saw in which there was something where Jordan would flop here and there, but some of the blatant flopping stuff that LeBron has put on camera and put on film, and me being a film guy, it's like, come on, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? All right. So anyway, we're going to be breaking that down. We're going to be breaking down the viral encounter that he had with Stephen A. Smith this past Thursday, and broaching a larger conversation, which has sparked it, because what has happened, the conversation has gotten to the point where people are thinking about how just sports debate TV, how it has really taken sports in a different direction than what it used to be. So we'll be discussing all of that and everything like that. Before I get too deep into the topic, let me just get through a few announcements here. First things first, if you are in the West Palm Beach area and you're interested in free boxing lessons, be sure to hit that QR code that you see right there on your screen, or go to freeboxing.makeyourmove.com, and I will get you all the information. I host free boxing lessons every 2 weeks, and we're actually back March 15th with another session at a local park. Like I said, if you are interested, just simply hit the QR code or message me, and we will get you all the information you need to have. Also, like I mentioned in the intro, business owners, freeguide.makeyourmove.com. I need you to go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. I put together 10 very easy to understand process, 10 steps in which you could be utilizing right now to make it so your business is moving in a whole lot more of an efficient manner. And tap into the Patreon. Be sure to tap into the Patreon, patreon.com/Aswand44. All right, let's get into this. Let's dive into this topic. So right now, I will play you my initial thoughts on. I did an initial take on this this past Saturday morning. I believe it was a Saturday morning. So I'm gonna let that play, and then we're gonna dive deeper into how much that encounter reignite or has ignited a conversation that needs to be had. All right. So just so we're clear, though, just so I have my stance taken on it. Today's actually, before we go there, let me do this before we go there. Let me just get to today's Making Move kickoff question. So this is every Monday we do something called a Make Your Move kickoff question. Last Monday it was, would you rather be respected or liked? And then I spoke about the difference between being respected and liked. The week before was another question. You could just go back every single Monday. It's in the archives. All right. So this Monday Make Your Move kickoff question is, has sports debate, and what I mean by sports debate TV is just like you saw on the thumbnail, what has been the number one sports show for over a decade has been First Take. And First Take was started right there with this debate style. It's this debate style show where there's a question like I'm posing now, a question that's posed, and two people who have this side or two people have their own opinions. They just simply go back and forth about what their opinion is and all that kind of stuff. And that has been the style, so to speak, of what the trend is in terms of sports media and sports conversation and all that kind of stuff. And the thing that got broached because of what happened with LeBron and Stephen A is, has it really ruined TV? Because it wasn't just that, there was also some just malicious comments. I call them malicious, but Charles Barkley's known to being a brash person. There was a comment made by him where he basically called the people on ESPN idiots because they're always talking about the Lakers, and it has created this conversation where this question has to be posed. Just so we're clear, I'm going to give my answer to this question. I'm going to tell you, no, it has not ruined it. It has not ruined it. Now, again, it has turned it, and you'll hear me talk about it a little deeper in a second when I play the thought, but it has definitely turned sports into a soap opera, and it has definitely been something that is new, but I wouldn't say it has all out ruined sports. And we're going to get to that reason in a second here. Let me let this play, and then we will go from there.
As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking in for a daily Move Swiftly thought, giving your perspective on teamwork which we will not get anywhere else. It's sports news, man. We got some news going on in the sports world. It's gonna probably take me an entire week to just cover everything, the whole scope of my thoughts. But I want to give my instant reaction towards the whole LeBron, Stephen A, two heavy honcho, big names in the sports industry, having a little moment of tension there at a Lakers game yesterday. I believe it was recording this on a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Happened Thursday night when Stephen A. Smith is watching. He's dubbed his team that he is a supporter of, the New York Knicks. In my opinion, I don't think it's. I guess I don't like the fact that he's known for that, given that he's a journalist. He's supposed to be giving his thoughts. Yes, now that things have turned out the way they've turned out in terms of the way social media works, it's not that big of a deal. But as a journalist, you're supposed to have a very objective thing. You say this is what it is. This is what it is. So known for your opinions, but he's gone from journalist now to more of a personality, more of an entertainer, more of a TV personality. And what happened 2 nights ago was the Knicks were on the road playing the Lakers, and he's sitting courtside, and apparently, and I didn't even realize this until I listened to Stephen A's take on the situation on his own platform, on his own podcast. I listened to the First Take one, but I also listened to his reaction to the situation on his own podcast, and I didn't realize this wasn't LeBron approaching him at the end of the game when it was all over. This was LeBron literally approaching him in the middle of a basketball game, which made it, which kind of confirmed what my initial take on the whole situation is, which is, LeBron is wrong. I'll be the first to tell you, have been on record explaining to you guys I'm a LeBron fan. I'm a LeBron supporter. Grew up, I graduated high school in 2007, so I've seen LeBron's career from start to finish. And I will tell you, again, greatest athlete I've ever seen, greatest basketball player of all time, one of the greatest sports stories ever. If not a fact, let's say one of the greatest sports stories of all time. LeBron James, what he represents, what his generation, it's an unbelievable story. And I'm telling you right now, he was wrong to do what he did. All right, everybody is not going to be blessed enough to be LeBron James. Everybody's not going to grow to be 6'8", 2 something, and have his athletic ability. But that doesn't mean we don't love sports. We don't love sports just as much as someone who's been playing it for as long as he's been playing it. And at the end of the day, so let me say what happened. He approaches him. LeBron approaches Stephen A. Smith I guess it was like in the middle or at some point before the game was over, and says, Stop effing with my son. Stop effing with my son. That's not stop effing with my son. He went directly to him and told him that. And the issue with him doing that is the fact that first of all, Stephen A. Smith, in my opinion, has been as fair as anybody whenever he talks about Bronny James. All right. And I remember actually when Bronny James was in high school, you can go pull up takes from when Stephen A. Smith was talking about Bronny James when he was in high school. And Stephen A. is on record saying, look, this is a kid that I have intentionally not watched because I know my platform's getting bigger and I don't want to put any added pressure on this young kid because we know who his father is. We know the hits and the takes and the things that his own father has taken over the years. And for you to be the son and to have some talent or be talented enough to play at that level, we don't want to add any more fuel to the criticism that he's already going to get, being that he's LeBron James' son. And then you go on record, and I'm talking about LeBron James now, you go on record saying you want him to go to the NBA, you want to play with your son. You got exactly what he wanted. LeBron got exactly what he wanted in terms of Bronny James playing on the same team with his dad, right? And seeing that Bronny is a professional athlete at this point, he has to be able to stick up for himself. He has to be the one. If he's a dog, he's grown man, he's man enough to play in the NBA. He's got to be the one to say if he has an issue with anything. Stephen A. Smith said he's supposed to say, "Yo, Dad, fall back. I'm a grown ass man now, and I'm gonna go to Stephen A. Smith and I'm gonna approach him because I'm a grown man and I don't need my daddy talking for me." What he did, it's crazy to think about it because what LeBron James did essentially is making the problem that he's complained about. He just made it worse. Just made it 100% worse because it is no need for it. And again, when you're talking about your son, Stephen A. Smith, publicly at least, I'm not sure what he does in his private time, but publicly at least, has been the most fair about the criticism. I've heard people say way worse than Stephen A. Smith has said about Bronny James. So if you're going to do it with Stephen A., you got to be willing to do it with all the people that has had a negative comment about your son. And I don't think he's willing to do that. Obviously, he's not willing to do that. And that's my take on it. And again, and you're listening to someone, you're speaking directly to someone, or virtually speaking, however you want to look at it, but you're listening to someone who is a LeBron James fan. And again, I got to take Stephen A. Smith's side on this one. But I'll be covering this because actually I don't think that clip was actually meant to go viral, to be 100% honest with you. But because it has gone viral, it's bringing up a whole lot more of discussion in terms of what the league television has done to the game, in terms of TV, and, the ESPN and sports debate and all that. And I look forward to tackling all of it. But that's exactly what we'll be tackling throughout the entire.
All right, so that was my initial take on the situation, and I have not veered at all. I want to double down on a couple things that I addressed, which is, again, first and foremost, I am a LeBron James fan. All right, I grew up. When it comes to basketball, I tend to root for players. I started out huge Iverson fan. And, obviously because his years with the Philadelphia 76ers, I would support the Philadelphia 76ers because of Iverson. And then once his career fizzled out, I, went to D Wade, and D Wade became my guy, and I became a Miami Heat fan, even bigger Miami Heat fan because of D Wade. And then they go on and win the NBA Finals in 2006, and then the big three comes to Miami, and LeBron brings the team 2 championship rings. So because of that, I had to bow down and say, hey. Because I used to fight for D Wade in that debate. I used to say D Wade was better than all of them, and I had to humble myself. I had to eat crow and just say, "All right, look, LeBron's just the better." And because of that, I had to simply eat crow and just say, "Hey, LeBron James is that dude. He is the GOAT." All right. So I want to make sure I'm on record saying that. However, during that time, as you see right here, all right, there was also something different happening in this world. The way sports were talked about, the way sports was covered was a completely different way that it was covered back when I was growing up, back when I was, I'd say maybe middle school to high school. You did not have people on TV turning sports into a damn soap opera. You didn't have hour plus long shows where folks are going back and forth about one topic or the other, about how they feel about a certain topic. You did not have this type of coverage when it comes to sports. It was Sports Center, and that was pretty much it. If I remember correct, Sports Center, maybe something like an NFL Live or an NBA Live before the game, where there's actual coverage of the games, who's going to be hurt, who's going to play, what the strategies are, what are some of the things that one team has to do in order to win the game. Some of the just breakdown. In fact, I remember there was a show named NFL Edge where they actually, like I do every Saturday, I actually broke down film, and this is what works, is what the actual analytical and actual breakdowns of the game. And we're talking both football and basketball here, where again, a kid like me that is watching TV, who loves sports, plays it, wants to be involved in it, for the rest of his life, and just loves it, and has the reality, is just realistic about the fact that, hey, I'm not going to be LeBron James. I'm not going to be good enough to be LeBron James. All right. You just know when you get a certain age, after you've played for years and you've seen talented players, you've gone to camps, you've traveled here, and you did this, and you did that. If you're going to be good enough to make it at the next level. You just knew. You can hope. Like by the time I got to be a junior in high school, by the time I got through my junior year in high school, or started playing my junior year in high school, I knew that, hey, going D1 was not going to happen. I can hope for an FCS program, right? Or when I say go D1, I mean like go into these major big time programs. I still wanted to go D1, but going to these major like Alabama or an Alabama or Florida, anything like that. That wasn't going to happen. Like it was to happen, but there was FCS programs. There was smaller Division I schools, like, and not big Power 5, Power 4 schools or anything like that. These things because you're realistic about your abilities and what you can do right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm explaining all that to you just so you understand. The majority of people who play the game are not going to be LeBron James. They're just not going to be that blessed athletically. They're not going to be that blessed with the kind of talent that he had. He is a unicorn. It is just not going to happen for the majority of people who play the game. Therefore, there's more opportunity to be there's more people like that can, we'll say there's more people who can develop the goals to be like a Stephen A. Smith, which is why as LeBron James is coming up, his 20 years in the NBA, right? The way sports was covered was changing because of 2 words: social media. All right. Social media is what changed everything in the past 2 decades. It just changed everything. And in terms of, when I say changed everything, it changed what actual legacy media did. All right. Legacy media, like the company that the company that Stephen A. Smith has been, known to be the face of. And he just got we're going to be talking about Stephen A. Quite a bit this week, but what Stephen A. Smith is known for is the work and becoming the face of ESPN, right? And because ESPN is a media company, it's a member of the legacy media, the traditional media, where they are covering sports 24/7, all day, every single day. They started to realize, or they made the mistake. I'll say it like this: they made the mistake of conforming to what was going to get them likes and comments and engagement with people. And they used social media as a means of getting those likes. They used social media as their barometer for how they engage with the public. They used social media as a way of saying, okay, if the social media, if the way social media is the way social media works is what's going to get our audience to grow, if it's what's going to get us to engage with more people, we're going to utilize what social media does. We're going to utilize what social media does, and we're going to conform to that. It was at that point, and I read Straight Shooter. So I read, how Stephen, in my opinion, what really made Stephen A. Smith as great, or, as big time as he is now, is his first take. He's done a lot of great things, but what he's been able to do, what him and Skip Bayless were able to create with this First Take show, was something that was absolutely legendary. That was absolutely legendary, because you're speaking to a person that would spend, this is this is how cool it was for me, because it's really bringing back memories. As one correction, if you knew me during my grade school days, we're talking, we'll say middle school all the way through high school, here's what people would say about me, classmates would say about me. I was shy, reserved kid, and the only time I spoke was during some sort of a football argument. I remember people coming up to me, especially in high school, that will always say to me, every time I hear you talk as one, you're only getting into arguments about football. Like, you're only talking you're only talking about football. That is what they would always say, right? So when I saw the fact that there was a debate show, like a show on ESPN that simply had sports debate, I was like, this is it. I loved it. Initially, I loved the concept, and I loved the idea of being on TV and just going back and forth with people. In fact, the majority of people who keep up with my break, it's my mother, actually, would tell me all the time, I could see you being one of these dudes that are sitting on a panel and just going back and forth about sports, and because that's what I did, right? So when this show happened, I'd say this show started really taking off. If I'm not mistaken, this show started really taking off around the time LeBron James was conceived. It was like a big thing that year, right? Because it was 2009. I graduated from college in 2010. Like, I was in my senior year of college, and this was around the time that there was a lot of speculation. It was a huge thing. Anybody that was around that time knows exactly what I'm talking about. It was a big deal in the sports world. It dominated every headline, every story. Everybody had their opinion. Everybody talked about it. And this was around, it was when LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, and Melo had already signed, but it was when those three became free agents. Remember that summer. We remember that summer. This wasn't just a summer thing. This was actually years in the making, because we were hearing talks, and this is when information, so again, social media was becoming a thing, and the media was starting to conform to what the social media world was saying, and what they liked and what they disliked and all that kind of stuff, right? So what started happening was information was getting out. Information was starting to be leaked to people, and everybody was giving an opinion, and everybody was saying this and saying that. There was just information. And it was around the time that LeBron James was getting ready to become a free agent. And people were, speaking from my perspective, I went to school in New York. I went to Stony Brook University, and we all know the New York Knicks were absolute. It's a circus. If we're talking basketball, it's the media circus. So the New York Knicks were, trading this one and clearing up cap space and trying to, make a run for LeBron and this, that. It was so great. And this is, now that I'm thinking about it, it's so much of it was being connected because Stephen A. Smith, known as this diehard New York Knicks fan, I remember being in New York during that time, and I was talking to other Knicks fans, and they were like, "Yo, if we could clear up the space, if we got the money, we could get the Wade, Bron, come play at the Garden, baby," and all that. They were really pushing. I know some Knicks fans that were really legitimately upset at LeBron James because of him signing with the Miami Heat, right? So when all that went down, this show became really, really popular. All right, we'll just say it like that. This show, the First Take, the show that Stephen A. Smith reminds a lot of us all the time, it's been the number one sports show for over a decade. This show became really, really popular because it was so many people simply giving their opinion. They were giving their opinion. They weren't necessarily reporting facts in a contextual way. They weren't reporting on, like I said, they were reporting facts, but they were reporting facts based on how they saw it. And they were saying this facts and, okay, this is my opinion about what happened. This is my opinion what happened. And everything was geared towards how are we going to get engagement on social media. It wasn't geared towards giving somebody the actual facts. It wasn't geared toward saying, okay, this is my objective view on something. It was geared towards how are we going to get engagement on certain things, right? So what started to happen was everything became about how many likes are we going to get. Everything became about how many comments are we going to get, how outlandish and how much can we say that's going to get clipped up and put out there and people are going to comment on, they're going to share this and they're going to share that. And that's just the way it happened. That's just kind of the way the world works. It's nobody's fault. All right. I'm not sitting here blaming Skip Bayless and blaming Stephen A. It's nobody's fault that it happened. It's just the way it happened. So let's get to the question. Let's get to the reason. The answer to the question, in my opinion, is no, because it's not fair for you to say, or it's not fair that you would say that because the debates or because of the way the news is covered, because things are happening a certain way, that it's just all out to ruin sports. That is not the case. In my opinion, what has happened is the athletes, because of the way the conversation is happening, because of the debates and because of how the news is covered. In fact, I'll never forget, I'll give you guys a quick story because, like I said, I'm a huge Miami Heat fan. Huge is kind of relative. I'm a fan. I'll say I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Miami Heat. But I remember when we won the championship, the second championship, the first one with the big three. I remember watching it, and this is a whole 2 years at this point of listening to this guy right here, Skip Bayless, just talk reckless, talk absolutely reckless about LeBron, talk reckless about the Heat. I mean, just saying things that were just completely malicious, just wrong. Okay, I'm not going to try not to pull up too many pull up videos from ESPN because I don't want to get demonetized on my show and on my platform and all that. But you can go look them up yourself, and you can go look up the nasty things that were said about LeBron during that time. Fact, now that I'm thinking about it, there was a point during that first year when LeBron was with Miami. There was a clip that I don't know if it had gone viral, but I know I saw it personally where it was like during the warm-ups, and the cameras caught LeBron going directly to one of the fans that was saying something about this, or saying, obviously, he was talking reckless. He goes up to one of the fans. He goes, "Hey, bro, look, you can say what you want about me, but keep my family up out of this, man. Just keep my family up out of this. That's all I'm asking." He went directly to a fan and said that. And I remember when that second year when we finally won the championship, and I was actually working overnight at a gym during that time, and one of the guys that when we actually won, the next thing he said was, "I can't wait to see what Skip Bayless says in the morning." So we had already won the championship. It wasn't always like this. I'm telling you, it was not always like this. Miami Heat wins the championship, and one of the people that I was watching the game with, his initial thought after winning a championship, after seeing his team win a championship, because he was also a Miami Heat fan, he goes, I can't wait to see what Skip Bayless gonna say." Like, can you imagine that? Like, understand how things have changed. Your team wins a championship, and you're thinking about the way what a person's going to say who's been, overly critical and has been incredibly like just had some nasty things to say. That's what has happened. That's been the way things have been. So again, like I said, let me get to why I don't think that it has actually ruined sports. In fact, in my opinion, it has enhanced it. In many ways, it's actually made it better because it opens doors and it creates opportunities for the majority of people who are like me, who played sports, loves sports, wants to be involved in it, really, really loves it, but knows that realistically, you're not going to be good enough to actually play professionally. That's the majority of people who play the game. It has opened doors and created voices and created opportunities for people like me to talk sports or use sports as a teaching tool to teach other folks how to create foundations, how to leverage teamwork, all the things that sports brings to the table. That's what it has actually done. However, I can understand the people who feel like it's ruining the game. And the majority of people who will feel like it's ruining the game are the players. Let me just address that first. I'm going to address that point of it first. And then I'm going to address the how, when you look at the trade-off, what needs to be done in terms of a solution and how we actually solve the problem. All right. So the majority of people who would say that sports debate has ruined sports are that 1%, that 1% of athletes that actually play the game, that is actually good enough to play at the professional level. I can completely understand it. I can completely understand why in their mind, because you hear it all the time from professional athletes. You hear it all the time from guys that are getting ready to get drafted. You hear it all the time from pros. You hear it every single time they hear a strong opinion about the way they played. They're like, "Oh, well, that guy ain't playing no football. That guy ain't playing no basketball, and he gonna sit on TV and talk about this one and talk about that one." You hear it all the time. And that is the part of it that you got to understand. It's because it's getting to them. All right, it's getting to them. The fact that Stephen A. Smith is not paid to talk to athletes, he says it all the time. He's paid to talk about you. And then what has happened, like, not only, let me lay off Stephen A. for a second here, and I want to talk to you about what has happened kind of as this industry has grown. This part of it has grown is you get former players, you get guys who played with certain superstar athletes. If we're going to we'll use the example of like a guy like Kendrick Perkins, who played with a Kevin Durant. Did they win a championship together? No, he didn't win the championship at OK. He won a championship with the Celtics, but Kendrick Perkins, he played with a superstar like a Kevin Durant when they were at OKC. They never actually won the championship together, but they became like brothers. Obviously when you play professionally, you play at that level, you get to know guys, families meet and stuff like that. Anyway, Kendrick Perkins is now an NBA and he works for ESPN. That's what his role is. And his role is to give strong opinions. And I remember there was a segment that I had watched where I think Kendrick Perkins had said something about Kevin Durant that Kevin Durant didn't like or something like that. And I remember the take that Kevin Durant had the next day where you could see it all over his face. He was emotional. He was upset. He started bringing up, the times that they were out with their families and stuff like that. And that's where a lot of people say it's ruined sports, because you get guys who were players and now all of a sudden they're on TV talking about former teammates, talking about guys that they've known personally, and it seems like they're taking personal attacks on folks. That's just the transition of going from being a player to now being an analyst. It's like going from player to coach. It's a big difference. It's not the same. Going from player to coach is a huge difference between coaching and playing. Coaching, you got to make a damn decision. You can either show up and be the authority figure and be the person that is telling the players what to do and how to do it and what they need to be doing to get better, or you can try to be the player's friend. You just got to make a damn decision on if you're ready to grow up. And that's all that we're seeing is just playing out. It's playing out in the sports media world. All right. So when you pose this question, and you have the question of, did debate TV ruin sports? The only people that, in my opinion, would say it has are the players that are being talked about, because this, like it's been, and LeBron James, again, it's totally understood why LeBron James would react to Stephen A saying this and saying that, even though, like I said before, if he's going to keep that energy with Stephen A, you got to be able to talk about everyone. You got to be able to go after every single person that have said these things about Bronny James. And again, to my knowledge, he's not done that. He is not doing that. He went to the one person in a situation, one face of it all, someone that really was not in a position to defend himself, right? And then he is like, oh yeah, don't leave my son out of it, when again, it just wasn't fair that he did that. But anyway, well, I'll let that die down for a second. I gave my thoughts on that. I want to stay on topic here. When you talk about the folks that are being talked about, these professional athletes who are being talked about, they're not, the majority of them are not strong enough to be able to take this. All right. They're not mentally there to be able to take that kind of critique, that type of criticism, because it's not built within them. You're talking about players that have been told since they were 7 years old, whenever they started, whenever their talent started peaking, they've been told how great they are. They've been told how good of a player they are going to be. You're going to make it. You're going to be next. They've had the real issue with the situation. The underlying problem with this entire situation is these participation trophy culture, the participation trophy culture that we've created, the amount of attention that we've given to young kids, and calling them All-Americans and naming them 5-star and 4 stars, and having these grown men slobber all over them to try to get them to their school. That's really the underlying issue, because we've made it so young athletes feel so privileged and so great, and they're so untouchable, that the minute they step into a professional sports environment where now you're going to be critiqued harshly, a very harsh critique. That's why you get the big bucks. That's why you make the big money, is because now you're fair game and people can talk about you and say exactly what they feel, exactly what they see on the court. Is now you got to be able to take it. That has to happen. So when we're talking about sports debate, all right, it is now the athletes who are being talked about have a platform to now fire back at it. Now they can go and tweet this and, oh, well, that ain't fair and you can't do it. Where, again, my advice to any athlete that's professional, stop tweeting. Stop. I remember saying that all the time back when, when this whole thing, all this sports debate, these sports debate shows started to become a thing, is that athletes, stop giving them ammo. All right. If you're being talked about, if you're critiqued harshly, have a strong opinion, you disagree with something that somebody says on TV, let it go. Just let it go. Just shut them up by the way you play. Let it go. Just simply let it go. Let it go and go let your play be the thing that does your talking for you. Do not go and, okay, I'm going to, go at and tweet somebody and tweet. And I get that. Look, somebody may be a former teammate. Something that somebody says on TV may cut incredibly deep because you know the person personally. You guys play together and now he's on TV. He or she is on TV and they're giving you a harsh critique about what you did to this, that, and the third. Listen, that's just a person doing a job. Let it go. Just let it go. Let it go and let your play do your talking. Now, you got to understand, being a professional, that's what it takes. This is why, again, I am so annoyed and kind of, to be honest with you, just I don't see the point. As the LeBron James fan, it's a little disappointing to see that he would single Stephen A. Smith out on this, because he of all people should know, hey, look, if he of all people, I mean, again, you're LeBron fucking James, man. He of all people should be able to walk up to his son and say, son, you've seen everything I've lived through. If you got an issue with what somebody says on TV, go out and ball. Go out and play. Go out and play. Do exactly what I did when I got to Miami. I had to hear a whole year, a whole offseason of people saying he don't got the fourth quarter. He can't make shots in the fourth quarter. And you know what LeBron James did? He simply went out that year and started making shots in the fourth quarter and won his team a championship. That's how that's the way it should work. As a player, if you got people who are talking about you and saying stuff about you that you don't like, you don't tweet, you don't at them, you don't start, going back and forth and comments and, playing the social media game. Again, that's the media game. The media game is to play the social media game, to go back and forth on social media, go back and forth in comments and stuff like that. That's the social media game. That's what they want to do. They want engagement. They want beef. They want soap opera. They want drama, because that's going to lead to more money for them. You as a player, you just shut up and ball. Shut up and ball. That's it. That's it. That is your response. If somebody is saying something to you about you on TV, shut up and ball. Period. That's how you shut folks up. Is you get up in the court, you get up in the gym, you get up in the weight room, you say, okay, let's do it. In fact, there's a clip. Like I said, I'm trying not to play too many other clips, especially on ESPN, because I don't want to get demonetized here. But there's something I want you guys to look up. Go look up a conversation that Chris Bosh had with Skip Bayless. And there was a big thing going on, I guess, where Skip Bayless would call Chris Bosh Spice or something like that. And it was something that went viral and people were tweeting about it or something like that. And Chris Bosh went to First Take and he looked Skip Bayless directly eye to eye, face to face. And he said, let's have the conversation. And Chris Bosh had made the point. He goes, he directly looks at him. He goes, look, I don't have a problem with you. I don't have a problem with you. And he goes, look, I crack jokes. And, if I stunk it up on the court one day and you want to talk your shit, hey, have at it, do your thing. But with the name that he created called Bosh Spice was very offensive to Chris Bosh's family. And he actually made the point. He kind of closed out the conversation. He goes, look, if you run into one of my aunts or something, it might be a problem, because you're not just taking a shot at Chris Bosh, who's the player. Now you're taking that family name that they have so much pride and so much dignity in, and now you're blasting out and it's going viral. And now his family members are taking offense to that. That to me, I thought was the best interaction between a athlete and a sports media personality, is the way Chris Bosh said, hey, look, if I stink it up on the court, if I do whatever on the court, hey, have at it, tear me up the next morning. But when it comes to the personal shots and taking my name out of context, understand I have family members watching. I have people that know me, that aren't professional athletes, and their name doesn't deserve to be dragged in the mud like that. To me, that was the beginning. You guys should all go watch that clip, because that's the beginning of the solution to the problem. All right. The beginning, I'm going to get to the solution of the problem. Now, as I clearly stated where the disconnect is happening. The solution to the problem is, again, we gotta make it so these athletes that are coming up have some thicker skin, man. They have got to have thicker skin. They gotta be coached harder. All right, they gotta be coached harder. It boils down to something that has happened that needs to start happening as a kid. All right, you gotta coach them harder. You gotta coach them harder. You gotta coach them harder. You cannot continuously shower these great athletes with compliment after compliment after compliment after compliment. I mean, like I said, I have a good friend of mine now I work with, and he's in the youth coaching as well, where he would call it these participation trophies have got to stop. This whole notion that just because, you competed, that you ultimately are now, you're this superstar athlete and now you can't do anything wrong and you get a trophy for just showing up, or you get a 4 or 5 star attached to your name just for showing up, or now you can transfer here and transfer there and you don't have to compete no more. You can duck competition. All of that stuff just got to stop. You got to make it so these guys are used to pressure. They're under pressure, and you give them the raw, honest truth earlier and earlier and earlier, because whether you make it as a professional athlete or you don't, that's what sports is meant to do. It's meant to get young people prepared for the pressures that the real world is going to throw at them, that the real life situation is going to throw at them. Yes, people are going to talk some shit about you. Yes, you're going to come into a situation where you have to work through something with a person that you genuinely do not like. Yes, that is part of life. You're not going to be able to go request a trade or go transfer here, or, now I don't have to do this. I don't have to do it. Like, one of the things that, again, that I think has been a positive about sports debate is the fact that they speak very candidly and very frankly about the problems in the NBA. The problems in the NBA, clearly, we're starting to see flopping. We're starting to see load management. We're starting to see players now who are making more money than they have ever made, and they're still complaining about the fact that they have to play all 82 games, or because they want to play less games, but they make more money than ever. How the hell does that make sense? How does it make sense that we are that the NBA is in a situation where players are making more money than they have ever made, yet they're still complaining about the fact that they have to play 82 games, or they still have the audacity to be upset about certain things because they want to play? I remember the rule last year that came out where Adam Silver finally put his foot down and say, hey, look, if you miss a certain amount of games, you're not eligible to be a MVP, or you're not eligible for any awards or something like that. And players still have the audacity to complain about that. All right, to the point where, again, the league, the numbers, the viewership, all of this stuff is tanking. And when you get people who are on these panels and have these discussions, it informs the public. It informs the public about what's going on, so that ultimately the problem can be fixed. That's where, again, I think that when you see a LeBron and you see a Stephen A, I look at both of them as pioneers in their field. All right, I look at both of them as folks that came up in a time that nobody saw coming. This is a wave. It's an era. It's called social media. It's called social media, a social media era in which they were able to take full advantage of because of the situations and the platforms that they represent. One has a job to do with ESPN, and he has to give his harsh opinion. He has to give the takes that are not only going to be very knowledgeable and articulate and educated, but they also have to cater to a larger audience. They have to cater not just to an audience of people watching TV, but an audience of people who have access to the internet and access to social media and access to all the things that ESPN wants and pays him to give his take, and think about all the people that are going to hear his voice, right? He has to think about all that. And you have a LeBron James, generational talent, generational story. As I said in the video that I played earlier, the greatest story in sports, period. The greatest story, period. of all time. Period. I put him above any other sports story ever. It's absolutely amazing. It has been a pleasure to watch his basketball playing career. All right, from 18-year-old kid all the way to now, he's playing with his damn son and still looking, for the most part, like he can go another 10 years if he wanted to. If you really watched his athletic ability, I know he had the groin injury or something like that in the Boston game, but when you really watch him, you actually see a player that looks like he can keep going, still playing the minutes. It's just unimaginable to know way he's kept up with his body and his athletic ability. It's an absolute pleasure to watch that man play the game of basketball. Yet they both came up in a time where social media became the wave, it became the norm, it became something in which folks are now interacting with everybody. And when you're when you're the pioneer, when you're the first to do something, the repercussions and the way you get perceived by being the first, you're always going to get bloody. You're always the first one through the door is always going to get bloody. The first one through the door is always going to have to kind of brush off a lot of things because it's new to people. All right. So overall, my overall take, and I'll close you guys out just with this understanding, is you simply have to adjust. You simply have to adjust to whatever times you're living in. You simply have to adjust to whatever it is. Get some water. To whatever's new, to whatever new things may be happening in the world. And as a business owner, the folks that I look to serve every day, the folks that I work with every single day in terms of how to, build a culture and build a cohesive unit within their staff, you have got to take all of this into consideration, because none of this is necessarily something that you're going to be able to sort of forecast. You have to simply have yourself in a ready set position, ready to adapt to whatever new changes may be happening. So if you look at the example of an ESPN and the example of a NBA, the relationship that ESPN and the NBA have, which has been documented, obviously a relationship that it's been years. They've had business relations for years and things like that. And you see what the two of the goal that an NBA and ESPN have. The goal is to get more viewers. You see what social media has done to create engagement. They simply got to adapt to that change. And the two most talented people, whether it's Stephen A. or LeBron James, they have to have that. They had to have a face for their network to be able to stay relevant. As a business owner, you got to look at that situation and say, okay, whatever's new, whatever's happening, whatever my goal is, whatever my vision is, there needs to be some sort of a face. There needs to be some kind of way in which we can make it so that my business stays relevant to the people that I want to serve. That is the takeaway. And that is pretty much the main thing we have to take away from today's entire discussion. All right. Because again, this is a fairly complex question, and it can be difficult to see, as a business owner, it can be difficult to see how it relates to you, but it very much does relate to you, because what I'm discussing here is a larger issue to where something new's coming. And if you want to use the example now, I guess the example now would be artificial intelligence, AI. It's here, it's coming. And if you're not adapting to it, if you're not organizing your structure and utilizing it in some way to benefit your business, then you're a dinosaur. You're a dinosaur. It's the same thing social media was back when I was in college or in high school, and those years. Same thing that social media was to the NBA and ESPN. They needed something that was going to adapt to those changes. They needed to do something. They needed to have a kind of a fixture or a way of keeping people engaged via social media. LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith were the people to do it. They both have been compensated very handsomely for doing it. However, it's not going to come without criticism. So that's all I got for you guys today. Main website to check out to dive deeper into everything I'm doing. I need you guys to go to makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. As you can see here, it's your one-stop shop for all your teamwork and your self-development needs. You can shop, you can join the Patreon, you can book me to speak, you can listen to the podcast, all of that right here on makeyourmove.com. one-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.